So for this exhibition, I'm showing 7 video works that are each distinct, but that are also all related to each other. I mean, for many years I've been interested in nature and island spaces, and I have filmed a lot in Jeju Island. And these works are also all filmed in Jeju Island in different kinds of natural environments or settings. Some are filmed under the surface of the sea, and others are filmed, for example, near the lava rocks by the coast, or inside a UNESCO Natural World Heritage cave. Or one video is very sort of close-up macro images of sea creatures and sea life. I think, I mean, sort of what I call the overarching exhibition is Yodo, Island Beyond the Sea. And so Yodo is a kind of Jeju term, mythical term. And it's not, a term or concept that can be reduced to one meaning. But in general, Yodo as a liminal space, as an island beyond the sea, a space also where, those who were shipwrecked or abandoned would go in the afterlife. So both a place of sadness and trauma, reflecting the hardships of life, but also in a sense a space of hope. And I think with the works, they also very much speak both to the specificity of Jeju Island, showing the natural environment and reflecting upon, specific myths and rituals and spiritual practices, but also being very imaginative, also in a way evoking, the idea of island, of a space, maybe a society to come, like something that is also being projected. I think there's something about, fundamentally how myths and rituals are ways in which, humans make sense of their reality, of their place in the world, of, what comes to hold importance, different values. I mean, Jeju holds many meanings for me. I think one is a very personal connection to the space. It's where my family in Korea is from and where they still live. So it's a place that I have returned to for many years and been very drawn to. I've been very drawn to, I think, very much to nature and to the environment. Like there's something that really resonates with me in that space. But I've also been, over the years, I've worked with many different people in Jeju. I've established connections with different people. For example, in the new works, one of the works, Halmang, involves a group of Haenyeo sea divers in their 70s and 80s. They're from a small coastal village where the shaman that I worked with for many years, so I've been coming to this village for a number of years. I was really interested in wanting to, portray the very close and intimate connection between the Haenyeo sea divers, not by showing them actually diving, but showing them sitting on the lava rocks from where they have departed for the sea for, 50, 60 years together. So to show this kind of intimacy around labor. I've always been drawn to this relationship between personal experience or subjective experience and larger collective historical processes. I think in one sense, I'm thinking that, each of us have a very unique entry point into these larger histories, like each life or each, person's story matters. And in a sense, it's connected to, these layers of grand narratives. At the same time, I've also been interested in questions of how sometimes the individual experience or memory might diverge from official history, especially, for example, when we think about minoritized memories or minority groups or people who in some ways have been dispossessed or marginalized in society, that their memories might, be quite different from the official history. So this kind of tension or negotiation. And I think it stems from personal experience. For instance, in my case, that my sort of individual history of migration, for instance, is connected to a whole history of migrations through transnational adoption. But that migration is also connected very much to, larger histories, to war, to larger circumstances. I think it's also very much what draws me to film, because film is really also often for me a way to engage very closely or very intimately with people that I encounter. So in that encounter with different people, there is this kind of like unfolding or unraveling of all these unique stories that somehow are all connected as well to a larger narrative. And I think what compelled me to make these works was a question of how can we relate to each other differently? How can we navigate differently? And I think it comes from this sense that we, as a society and culture, not only Korea, but, society and culture at large on a sort of global scale, we are really faced by, major challenges, let's say the climate crisis or ongoing wars or social polarities, forms of injustice. So there's something about these grand narratives, or maybe myths of modernity, myths of a sort of capitalist sort of idea of endless progress and accumulation, that unsustainable. So what other ways are there, what other stories are there to navigate by, and that show maybe another way of interacting, of cohabitating with nature, another way of relations between people, and maybe also the need for a regeneration, for a reset, for burying or dismantling, certain hierarchies that are unproductive, like unsustainable, in order for something else to emerge. So the works in each their way, I think, speaks to this, and as a whole, they kind of also, hopefully for the audience, will, enter into dialogue with each other. I think for me, time-based media is very much a multi-sensorial medium as well. And I think in some ways it has to do with this, something that, I have also been very invested in, I would say both formally but also thematically, has been the question of borders and, how to renegotiate or diffuse different kinds of borders. And I think for me, I've been drawn to the medium of film also because it was a place where you could reconfigure time. So instead of understanding time as, a causal succession of events or in a linear sense, in film or video, you can really create, create all these connections and ruptures and renegotiations of time. So there's a kind of blurring of these boundaries, also the sort of maybe a blurring of different hierarchies of how we register things or what, we count as knowledge. And then I think in the installation sense, maybe I see the video installation as a kind of like expanded way of working with time-based media, because here you also spatialize the experience. So with this exhibition, for example, I've been interested in how the audience will also meet the different works. I think you become conscious of your own sort of body and movement in space, and how the different works are in dialogue with each other. So it creates another kind of experience than, let's say, if you see the films in a cinema.